Welcome to the Face to Face Ministries podcast. I'm Kathy Little.
And I'm Melinda Wilson, and we are talking all things inner healing, true connection with Jesus, and the full benefits package of the cross. Thank you for joining us. Episode
29.
Woohoo!
Yes, we are knocking on the door of 30.
Whoa.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome.
I hope that you listened to part 1 with Harold Eberle last week because, man, this guy, he is a scholar. He is a theologian. And we didn't mention this much last week at all. I think he did in the interview, though. But this man is one of the most prolific authors. You can go to Amazon and search Harold Eberle in books, and the list is long. This man is a scholar. He is absolutely brilliant, and he does a lot of work with Muslims, as he mentioned last week, and he is seeing Muslims come to Jesus at an amazing rate. It is absolutely astounding what Jesus is doing in the Muslim world, and Harold and his wife Linda are part of what God's doing there. So if you have not listened to part 1, you want to go back there for context before you continue listening. You can stop right now, go back to episode 1, and then come back and pick up episode 2. But we are really excited.
Okay, so here we go with Harold Eberle part 2.
There are some filters that are specific to our culture.
Yes.
Would you address some of those, how we perceive some of those things? Because those filters
They're powerful.
They are.
Yes.
And where they came from,
Exactly.
too.
It's like our word for punishment in the Western culture. Again, punishment is associated with a judge. Often the judge is saying, whether it's a parent judge or a policeman judge or any kind of environment that you're in. Well, we were working in Africa for some years, and there was one tribal group over there who have no word for punishment in their culture. Not even a word for it. Now, that's hard to understand. How can they get along? Because they don't believe in punishment. It's never been in their consciousness. So in talking to them and trying to understand, what do you do? Well, they actually think Americans and Western people are foolish for punishing criminals. They don't understand why we put people in prison. Makes no sense to them. If, for example, if a man were to kill another man, we would probably put him in jail for the rest of his life or for a long time.
Right.
They think that's crazy because in their culture, if a man kills another man, that man must provide for the wife and children the rest of his life. We put him in jail. They expect the man to provide for the wife and children the rest of his life. That's why they have no word for punishment. They believe in remedy the situation.
Wow.
That's what's responsible. You must correct it. You must spend the rest of your life providing for the wife and children, for the widow and the children, instead of going to jail. Okay, so there's a culture that thinks differently than us. They can't understand us. Well, until you are face-to-face with another culture's thinking, you won't question your own culture. And where did we get our ways of thinking?
That's true.
Our concept of punishment, it didn't originate in the Scripture. Didn't originate in the Bible. It actually originated in Greek and Roman times. The foundation of Western civilization goes back to the Greek Empire and the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire is the one that was especially profound in punishing crime. Hundreds of thousands of people were crucified, nailed to crosses, tormented and tortured. That was how they thought bad behavior can be stopped. Okay, that whole concept of bad behavior stopped by punishment, it's deeply in Western culture, and we do it, not even knowing. We punish ourselves, we punish other people, whether it's punishing them by giving them a bad look or punishing them by shaming them. It's our culture to do that. Well, one of the shifts that we see in Jesus Christ is a transformation of how do people change. Is it by behavior modification, by punishing bad behavior and rewarding good behavior? Is that how people change? No. We can see glimmers of it in the Old Testament that on Mount Sinai, God gave the law, and if they didn't do the law, they'd be punished. But that's not God's preferred way.
Right.
And in making a transition from the Old Testament to the New Testament, God sent prophets and said, through Isaiah the prophet, no longer will I punish you with deprivation, but I will now lead you by the Spirit speaking to your ear. So through Jesus Christ, we get God's preferred way of dealing with humanity and helping humanity obey him. The Old Testament, there's a wrong concept of how God relates to humanity, a veiled concept. You couldn't really see it. In the New Testament, what it is when someone comes to God through Jesus, God starts writing his desires on their heart. He changes their heart because he's now becoming your parent. And you become his child. A child deep inside is becoming like their parent. They have the DNA of their parent. God breathes his spirit in us, and his spirit now comes inside of us, and we start changing from the inside out. And so now there is this behavior change where he's writing his desires on our heart. We want to do his will. Then he breathes his spirit into us and causes us to walk in his ways. That changes everything. So how do people change? We can still use that punishment model, but actually you cannot change people in any significant way just by punishing bad behavior. In fact, we cannot change ourselves by simply punishing our own bad behavior. It takes a new breath, a new wind. It takes a desire. Some desire deep in with you has to change, and then you need the strength to do that desire. That's what God's offering. He's not into punishment. That's not his preferred way. He said through the prophets, I used to deal with you by depriving you and punishing you, but no longer will I deal with you that way. Once Jesus comes, I'm going to deal with you by writing my desires on your heart and giving you my spirit. And my spirit, this is God's preferred way to deal with people today. But there's a whole lot of people, times of our lives, we thought God was punishing us. We thought that's God's so angry at me that we think that's what he wants to do. Instead of realizing, no, God really wants to change my desires, and he wants to breathe his spirit in me.
So would that be a good argument for, or not a good argument for, but would that be a good basis for inner healing?
Yes.
Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the change of the heart, the inside-out transformation, not behavior modification, but let's renew the person through, let Jesus into those places, speaking truth.
Exactly.
Because you can behavior modify all day long, and it's just exhausting. And it doesn't produce a lot of results. No, it doesn't produce any results, and or certainly not long term. Long term. Yeah, so that's a good background for inner healing and why that's important and why we need to pursue that and offer that and have that available, because we absolutely need transformation, but sometimes because of wounding, lies, brokenness, trauma, abuse, that. There's so many things that keep us held back. And a lot of times people view God the Father through the lens of their earthly father. And that's not a good thing. Not good.
So none of us have a perfect natural father. But even people who have a good natural father, still they fall short. But then, of course, as you're referring to or implying, there are some people who really had a bad relationship with their father, and it was because the father was not a good influence. And for some reason, people carry that with them, and then when they think of God, and somebody tells them God's a father, they impose their natural image of their natural father upon God, and they're afraid of that God. And
who wouldn't be?
Who wouldn't be? So when you talk about inner healing, a lot of us have to have scars removed, wounds removed, to really see who God really is. And just to start praying, God, please show me as you really are. I don't want this distorted view of you. Because as long as we have a distorted view of him, we're going to distance ourselves from him. We're going to hold him at arm's length. And sometimes people learn about Jesus and they say, well, that Jesus is okay, but God behind him, he's scary. And that's just the wrong concept. Jesus is the exact representation of God. And if people can't connect the two, it's because there's some wound, some veil, some misunderstanding about who God is that they have to get cleared up. So we want to help them clear that up so they can behold, no, Jesus is like God. I got it. I don't have to be afraid of him. I can boldly walk into his presence and talk to him, and he won't condemn me.
That's a beautiful picture because, when I was focusing in on Jesus being the exact representation of the Father,
yes,
you have to look through the lens of Jesus.
You have to.
But there is so much that's confusing. And like you said, how we as Westerners interpret certain things, punishment and judges.
Yes.
Are there any other filters that you've come across in your travels that affect Western thought and Western perception of Christianity and God and relationship with Him?
Yes. So that's one of my passions to teach on all that.
I do know. Yes. That's why I'm asking you.
Hooah. Yes, hooah. I like to shout hooah from time to time and get people going, shake them up.
Go for it.
So at the foundation of Western thought is this other assumption. It's a false assumption, and it got seeded into Western civilization about 500 years before Jesus. So we're talking 2,500 years ago. We understand that the Greek Empire was dominating around the Mediterranean Sea. That's where historians usually assign the foundation of Western civilization. Alexander the Great being one of the most influential ones, he tried to conquer all that region, and he destroyed. And he believed he could only control people if he destroyed art, literature, statues, anything that had any culture to it. He would try to have his people destroy it and then impose Greek culture on that area. It was such a wiping the slate clean that historians call it the Hellenization of society. It was wiping away the past civilizations and imposing Greek, called Hellenizing the area, imposing Greek thought. Helen was the goddess of Athens, so they called it the Hellenization. And because it was such a transformation, such a time of shifting away, historians often will say that's the start of Western civilization, the Greek Empire. Of course, there were people before that. There was some influence that carried on, but that was a major time. After the Greek Empire comes the Roman Empire. Conquered the Greek Empire, displaced it, and even got bigger. And much of southern Europe, northern Africa is in the Roman Empire. So we have forming Western civilization and continue to be built throughout Europe, throughout the Middle Ages, coming to North America where we live. And wherever Western education has spread, Western thought is. Well, way back in the founding Greek thought, the very foundation of Greek thought, there's a separation between the spiritual and the natural. The spiritual is thought of as above us, heaven above us, and this natural world down here. Deeply embedded in the Western mind is sorted out heaven above, the spiritual realm, down below, the natural realm. We think in those terms. Even Christians in the Western world think in those terms. Heaven's above, God's above, we're in the natural realm. And there's a distance between the two worlds. We, at the foundation of our worldview in the Western society, tend to think heaven above, natural below. So I've said it several times. I hope people got the picture of it. Okay?
I grew up that way. I
totally
totally get that.
Yes.
God above, earth below.
That's exactly. And it's natural for people who live close to nature to think that way. Primitive people groups who live out in nature, you just naturally look up, see the stars at night. You live down here. There's a natural space that can just become the foundation of your worldview. And that's what happened. Well, the biblical foundation is different than the Western foundation. Even Christians don't really grasp this. If you start with the Bible, you start in Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Notice the heavens were created. They also came into existence as the earth did. The word heavens in the Bible, it refers to first the natural heavens. When you look up and you see the clouds, the stars, the sun, all that's the first heavens. But there's also a second and third heavens in biblical thought. But Genesis 1:1 says all of it got created. God created the heavens and the earth. The first heavens was created, the second heavens was created, and the third heavens was created. There was a point in time in which they came into existence. And there's only one creation. Within one creation are the heavens and the earth. That's the foundation of a biblical worldview. In Western society, there's two worlds separated with a huge gap. With a biblical worldview, the foundation is there's one world with a spiritual realm and a natural realm.
Ooh.
The spiritual realm is not way up above us.
Yeah.
The spiritual realm is within creation right here.
Wow.
And God entered into creation. Jeremiah says, of the words of God, do I not fill the heavens and the earth? So the proper worldview that Christians should be building on is that God is right here around us. He doesn't exist in a world separate from us, above us. He fills this world right around us. Now, that changes how we read the Bible.
Oh, yes, it does.
Like when we say the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Western people envision heaven up above us, the kingdom above us, and want it to come down to earth.
Right.
But that's not biblical thinking. Jesus said the kingdom is within you. It's right here. When our heart is in tune with King Jesus, the kingdom flows through our heart right here.
Wow.
God is right around us. And that's how the people in Bible days thought. They didn't think God is way up there. That is a Western interpretation of the Bible. And interesting, over half the world today does not have Western thought. Over half the world today thinks more biblically than Western Christians. Like people in India, they're influenced by Buddhism and Hinduism, which shows the spiritual realm is right here. We are a mixture of spiritual and natural. In China, everything has chi in it. Everything has spiritual energy in it. Whether it's our arms, our legs, this table, the ceiling, everything has energy in it. In most of Africa, they believe the spiritual realm is right here. In fact, over half the world today sees the spiritual realm as superimposed and integrated with this natural realm. Okay? That is a more biblical foundation than what many Western Christians have. Many Western Christians do not have a biblical foundation for the worldview. They have the ancient Greek foundation, which says the spiritual world is above us, separated from this world, and the natural is down here. And it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
And our people in China and much of Africa, when they become Christians, actually start with a more biblical foundation than people in America, because in America we start with a Greek foundation, not knowing it. We start with a separation, that there's two worlds separated. But in reality, the Bible teaches there's only one world, and it's all created, and within the one world are the heavens and the earth. God is right around us, filling us right here.
So, that being the case,
yes,
you're saying that people in China and these other nations, that's how they think.
Yes.
I'm thinking that's why we're as afraid of them.
Yes, that's one of the reasons. Yes.
And the New Age community.
Yes.
Who
spiritual, very close.
Very, very spiritual.
Yes.
That's the reason we're afraid of them.
Yes.
Okay, this
and
should
yet
not
they're more
be.
biblical than we are
That's
in their worldview.
Oh, come on, this is crazy.
It is.
This is crazy because there's so much fear that we don't want to be polluted by that thought. But then they're so much closer to the truth than we are based on biblical thought and what the because it does say heavens plural were created and
all
the
of it's
earth
created. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yet we are afraid of them.
Yes.
Like, let's not do that because let's not go into the New Age festivals or whatever and be approaching them from a Holy Spirit, Jesus. Why not?
Exactly.
Give them truth.
Yes.
They're craving it.
Yes, they are.
They want it more than most of us do.
Yes.
Let's,
And so they're starting with a biblical worldview, even though they don't know it.
Wow.
And many of us are not starting with the biblical worldview. Okay, now, they don't have the truth on everything. We're just saying they start with the truth on this issue.
Right, on
the
this issue.
The foundation of their worldview is more biblical than ours, which is tragic. Okay.
Wow.
Even God's throne room. Okay. The Bible shows God's throne room is within creation. God entered creation. There are several verses in the book of Psalms that says, "Thou hast established thy throne within the heavens." Okay, thy throne, where is it? It's not in a different world, separated from this world. It's within the heavens, and it established. It came into existence at a point in time. God, your throne room came into existence at a point in time. Now, that truth, that it came in existence, implies that it also is within creation. See, if the ancient Greek worldview was correct, that God exists in a spiritual world above us, the thought is that that world always existed. It's an eternal existing world that always existed, and only the natural world was created. That's the Western foundation. Okay? That means that God, who exists in this spiritual, uncreated world, his throne always existed. And yet, no, the Bible says, no, thy throne was established. It talks about a time in which it came into existence. Time governs the throne of God. We know that because angels go in and out of the throne of God. We know Paul was taken up into the throne of God. In fact, when we die and go to heaven, okay, we are not going to go into a timeless world. We're not going to go into a different world that's timeless. You see, by the definition of timeless, nothing can ever change. That means you could never go into it. Because you to go into a timeless world would be, once you're not there, then you are there. Can't do that. That's contradictory to the definition of timeless. No, the heaven that we are going to die and go to is within creation. It's within time.
Wow.
You see, it's a contradiction of logic to even say you're going to go into a timeless realm. You can't, because that would change that realm, and change can't happen in a timeless realm. So here it is. Western society has built on an ancient Greek worldview. And if we were to set that aside and try to read the Bible through a worldview on Genesis 1:1, we would say, no, God's right here, very close. It's one of the reasons Western people have a hard time believing in miracles. We believe this God is way far away. When Africans become Christians, they know God is very close. When Chinese people with their worldview become Christians, they know God is very close. See, in the Western world, people are comfortable talking to God who's far, far away. Like they will say, oh God, who art in heaven, praise you. Even by my very words, I'm implying he's far away.
Yeah.
How come I pray that way? Because I am envisioning him in a different world, where someone who understands the biblical worldview says, Father, thank you for being here. Thank you for walking with me.
Yeah.
To talk that way in front of some people makes them uncomfortable.
That's true.
In a church that understands how close God is, if you have somebody from a traditional church come in, they feel uncomfortable. If you're singing to a personal God, God, we love you. Everybody in the room singing to a personal God right close, they feel uncomfortable because they've been trained in traditional Christianity where they want the speaker up front saying, God who art in heaven, praise you. They want to keep God at arm's length. And they can't understand Christians who understand he's very close. It's just, you're too close. I can't be in this room.
Yeah.
And many traditional Christians want to get out of that environment. And it's one of the conflicts in a church that has a biblical worldview versus a Western worldview.
Well, I have been a worship leader for about 30 years, and one of the things I love to do is to create that atmosphere of intimacy with Jesus through song.
Exactly.
But you're right. Some people have a harder time with certain songs because they would rather be declarative about, well, this is who you are, but not the intimate, this is who you are to me personally in this moment, and that intimate relationship. But God has always been about relationship, and he is always right here. I've heard it said, I don't remember the source of this, but I know Melinda, I've heard say this several times, that if you look at and break down the Lord's Prayer, our Father who art in heaven, it's really, the concept of that is our Father who's in the air I breathe.
He's surrounding me.
He is right
in the heavens.
Here.
Yes, he's filling it all.
Wow, that is that is so amazing, and that's totally what I was wanting to have you unpack for our listeners, because there's so many things that we're convinced we know, but we don't know what we don't know.
We don't know what we don't know.
But now they know.
Yes, hallelujah.
Because you've told them.
Hallelujah.
Oh, man.
And I like you pointing out, as a worship leader, most worship leaders are aware that God could come and really kiss these people.
Absolutely.
But when the worship leader tries to bring the people to that place, most of them can't handle it.
Yeah.
It's a capacity issue.
It's a capacity. Yeah, they've never been taught that God wants to be that close. They just feel uncomfortable. They want to get out of the room.
Well, some of the things I've noticed is when I'm leading, there are people who, like when they walk into that atmosphere, and they're caught up in it, and then they try to explain it away afterwards. You know, or they just get caught up in it, and they're like, "Oh, I did not know this could be."
Yes.
Because we don't know what we don't know.
We don't,
And to be able to, it is my highest honor to create an atmosphere for people to encounter the tangible, interactive presence of Jesus. That's who we are as a ministry. That's what we want, for people to interact in a way that is transformational. I've said this in other podcasts, and I kind of stole it from somewhere, I don't remember, but information is really helpful. Experiences are memorable, but encounter is transformational. And when you can encounter who he is in the here and now and understand the filter removed, this is Jesus, you've got to look through him, or you're going to be seeing a skewed version. And understanding that God's nature is love, and it is who he is, and judgment and punishment are not what we think. Game changer.
Game changer.
Hooah!
Life changer. Yes. Amen.
This is a game changer. Thank you so much, Harold. I'm telling you, this has been eye-opening. This has been totally what we were hoping for in this conversation, because you carry these keys that just unlock the scales from our eyes and give us a different perspective. And thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you. Thank you.
Cool. Bless you.
Wow. We hope you have enjoyed that and that you're not like totally rattled right now, because I know this interview, and especially some things he just talked about, might really rattle your perspective. I did not realize that Genesis 1:1, when it says God created the heavens and the earth, I thought, well, that's just the moon and the stars, the solar system, that was the heavens. But that isn't. I mean, it's the heavens, plural, had a starting point. One creation, the heavens and the earth. And that whole issue of the biblical worldview being that there is no separation between the secular and the sacred. There is no separation. It's not like heaven, our God who art in heaven, we praise you, like he was just saying. It's not that God is far away. He's right here. But in Western culture, we don't understand that. And that is never more obvious than in church. It's so obvious in church that you have people who think God is far away, he's distant, we have to beg for him to come. No, he's here.
Well, and even our posture of our bodies, we're like, God, and we look up. That's the automatic response. You're like, God. And I'm looking up at the ceiling or looking up at the sky, or when I'm praying, I bow my head low. And I guess that's a sign of respect. But I was even this morning in a Bible study when we were praying, and my head was looking at the ground, and I thought, why are my eyes closed and my head looking at the ground when Jesus is all around me? Not only is he inside me, but God is all around us. But we have created this separation. I think maybe it feels safe, or it feels like we're being reverent or something. But in actuality, to really know him is to know that he is in our very breath and around us, whether I'm looking up or down or sideways or left or right, he's there.
Yeah.
But it does take paradigm shifting, and it takes choosing to believe that, and then asking to experience him in the everyday, the day-to-day, everyday life, and not making that a separate thing. Like, well, he's only here when I pray, or he's only here when I'm in worship. And then again, we make this thing a separation. And then some things are sacred and some things are secular. Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, I love walking. And so I'm like, oh, we're taking a walk together, Jesus. It doesn't have to be a holy, set apart thing. He's just already here. And it's actually just becoming aware of his presence.
Right. Which that song, Holy Spirit, written by Brian and Katie Torwalt, that bridge to that song, let us become more aware of your presence. Let us experience the glory of your goodness. And I love that line in there because, I'm a worship leader, have been for many, many years. Many, many, many years.
Too many to count.
Too many to count. And one thing that I am really careful with, the song that I'm choosing is giving language to the church. And so what is it? I don't want to have language in a song that is not theologically accurate or does not truly represent a proper biblical worldview. And I appreciate that about the church that we attend in California. I'm part of the worship community here. And one of the things that is really a foundational thing for those who are choosing songs is we're not going to be singing songs that beg God to come as if he's far away and we have to beg for him to come. No, let's sing the songs that acknowledge that we know you are here and we welcome you and we receive your presence. We're engaging with your presence. We are thankful that you are here with us. And another worship leader friend of mine up over in Atlanta, Georgia area used to say during worship, at one point when he would be leading, he would say, hey, open your eyes and look around you. This is a corporate experience. We are singing together. Jesus is in us. Let's experience this together. He is all around us. Jesus is in us and around us and closer than the air we breathe. And that separation and distance, it's just not biblical. It's not.
What I also thought was super fascinating, and I'd heard of this a little before, but he talked about it in a little more detail about the idea of punishment not really being something that was created by God. That's a man-made, particularly Western-made expression of how do we deal with people that have done bad things. And we lock them up or we send them to the corner or whatever. I think that there's a big part of us that wants justice or wants revenge or wants to see our enemy get their due, whatever they deserve. And we see that in films in Hollywood. And so I think, justice, like I want justice, but what does that look like? And does it look like someone being punished and sent to prison for 30 years? And what he was talking about is I guess it was in Africa, that some countries in Africa, some tribes in Africa, is they don't send, if a man murders another man and it's someone's husband, his duty then is to take care of the wife or the widow and the children for the rest of his life. That makes a lot more sense. And instead of leaving the woman and children alone with no provision, it's like, no, you actually have to make up for what you did.
Yeah.
Instead of locking him away.
Yeah, so it wasn't about punishment, it was about making restitution.
Restitution.
Yeah, that was really powerful. And I had not heard that before, that there's really they don't even have the concept of punishment, but yet we're really punishment happy here, and ironically, I read this book by Jeff Turner called Saints in the Arms of a Happy God. And he talks about that where, there's almost like this tribal mentality in the church where if we think God is mad about XYZ, then we have to be mad about XYZ too, because we want to please him. We want him to be pleased with us. So I have to hate the things that God hates, or I have to hate the people that God hates. The problem is, God doesn't hate people. He hates sin and he hates what sin does to us, but he loves people. But yet there's almost like this tribal mentality that we have to appease God because he's angry, because we think he's angry. We have to appease him by punishing those that we think he would punish. And we do that through shaming. We can shame them. We can, curse them. We heard about that from Paul Cox, how dangerous it is to speak ill of each other. So we need to be careful with that, because there's a lot of power in that, and it's not a good representation of God's heart.
Thank you so much for listening. We really love having you along for this incredible journey. We would so appreciate if you would share our podcast with anyone and everyone that you think would benefit. And frankly, I think everyone would benefit from it. And
oh, yes.
Check us out at facetofaceministries.org. You can leave us messages or comments Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram at face2facemen, all one word. Spelled, the T is spelled out T-O. Sign up for our monthly newsletter. Find out what we're doing, what we're up to, and subscribe to the podcast. And give us a 5-star rating. Write a review on whatever platform that you listen to it. And
we're going to show you how to do that on our website.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Just help us get the word out. You know, this truth is... As you may be listening, as you're listening, you may be thinking, wow, this is amazing. Well, share that, because when we get hit with revelation, we want to share good news with other people. We want to share revelation when, we get an aha. It's like, oh, I just want to tell as many people as possible. So please do that as you've been listening. Share it, share it, share it.
Yes, it is so good. We see some folks are doing that and tagging us and getting some emails, and we love to be connected, because we're standing looking at each other in a quiet room, and we like to know that what we're doing matters. And if it does matter, if it is affecting you, if it is something that you believe in, it's been a positive impact on your life, we would love to have you become a patron of the podcast, and you can do that through a website called patreon.com, Patreon, patreon.com/face-to-face ministries. You can become a patron of the podcast, support it monthly. There's 3 different levels where you can buy in, and there's some free stuff for people at each of those levels. And we would just love to have you be part of this, because there is so much more available to us because of Jesus than we are even connected to. It's like we want you guys to know, hey, listen, there is freedom and wholeness today.
Yeah.
The kingdom is here. And there is so much available to us. And the thing is, Harold Eberle talked at the very end about, hey, Jesus is about this inside-out transformation, not outside-in behavior management. And that transformation, sometimes we have blockages in the way. And that's where inner healing comes in. And that's the whole focus of this, is to bring you information about the different ways, different tools, different revelation in getting freedom and wholeness and healing in your life. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of this journey with us. And check out the Patreon page, patreon.com, face-to-face ministries. Communicate with us through our social media. We just love to be connected, and really grateful that you're part of our podcast family.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.